Yo, my wiggly wagglers. Have you ever wanted to create a persona but felt stuck figuring out where to start? Well, you're not alone, and I'm here to help. A persona is a character many artists and non artists use to represent themselves. It can be anything from a chunk of cheese to a carbon copy of your IRL self. But how does one decide what such a big part of one's identity should look like? In this video, I'm going to talk about how to design a persona for yourself. I'll also talk about the one tip that I think a lot of people are missing when designing their personas. Before I start, I just wanted to say I'm not a professional character designer. These are all just my opinions. My only credentials is that I have managed to come up with a persona that I am very connected to and love very much, and this paper that says swag. But I'm not gonna waste your time by going over the general tips first, and I'll just go ahead and tell you the tip I think is so important. And that is to understand that a persona is different from an OC and that it changes and grows with you. Now, what does this actually mean? Let's break it down. It's sort of like two tips in one. First of all, I think that a lot of people try to design the persona like they would an original character, making a whole personality and lore for them. And while that might make for a really interesting character, and is actually what a lot of VTubers do, from my experience, it often results in feeling a disconnect to the character. And if you feel like you can't connect to your persona, that might be one of the causes. Though I do also want to clarify that it is totally okay and can still be very interesting to make a backstory. Just be aware of how it might affect your relationship with the Sona. It might actually be good if you want a persona that's sort of an idealized you. It might make it easier for you to present yourself to people if the thing you're presenting isn't entirely you. Like me, as in real life me. I've always been sort of bad at socializing and such, but when I'm Spruce the Woob, I can be whatever I want. I've always seen my Sona as a more confident and chaotic me. So when doing videos and talking to people online, I can just act as if I'm that and boom. Okay, well, I'm not that good of an actor. I still struggle every time I have to talk to people, but I'm at least 20% more swag. As for the second part of the tip, that a persona changes and grows with you. Yes, if you only get one thing from this video, I think this should be it. Some people expect to just come up with the perfect design on the spot and keep that design for their persona for the foreseeable future. But sadly, this probably won't be the case. This is due to multiple reasons. First and foremost, even if you know what you're doing when it comes to character design, your first idea is rarely your best one, so it can be really smart to experiment with different designs. But that's not the only thing that can cause your Sona to change over time. I think one very important thing is to allow your design to grow alongside you. Maybe this will be easier to understand if I show you how my own Sona has evolved. So, at the start of my art journey, I didn't really have a Sona. I just depicted myself as me, or as well as my artistic ability could manage. But one day, I drew this, and that was where my art journey of my persona started. A brown-haired thing with purple skin, pointy ears, and purple horns. And, well, from that we got to this, which honestly isn't too different. But still, I drew my persona a lot, and I mean a lot, throughout the years. And I think one big reason I like my Sona so much is that I've allowed myself to change them as I please. If there's something I want to add or change, I'll just do it because, well, frankly, there aren't any real reasons my Sona looks the way it does. I just draw them how I feel like at the moment, and it just works. I think that's important to keep in mind with art in general. Let yourself be free, creative, and experiment as much as you want. Just have fun. But I think that concludes that part. So let me move on to some more general tips I've picked up throughout my years of drawing. Okay, first and foremost, I want to be very clear on this. Don't be afraid to truly go wild with your Sona. It doesn't have to look like you, and anyone who says it does is just boring. Make your Sona something you'd want to be, or maybe what you feel like you are. It can also be a good thing to think about how the way your persona looks can affect the way people view you. So it might be smart to represent yourself the way you want to be seen. And keep in mind, if you want to be drawing your persona a lot, make sure to make their design something you like drawing. Now, on to the second tip. While your Sona doesn't have to be an objectively good character design, since, well, you probably aren't gonna make a cartoon series with it or anything like that, it does still help to have it be recognizable and visually appealing if you want people to, well, remember it. So try thinking about shape, language, colors, and general design rules when making your Sona. But of course, what matters most is that you yourself enjoy the design and you like drawing it, because, well, you'll most likely be drawing your Sona quite a few times. I'll use my Sona as an example for this. My Sona isn't really anything crazy, it's just a brown haired person with horns and a tail and a yellow jacket. It's honestly a pretty basic design, but when making it, I was thinking about what colors work together and what I like too, of course. So I ended up with a purple and yellow scheme, and with the rest of the design just being neutral colors. Also, in the beginning, I used a lot of circular shapes to make my Sona seem softer and more chill, but at the moment, I tend to prefer drawing them with angular and more pointed shapes to make them seem more chaotic. But I still do include rounded shapes. You sort of have to find a balance with that. That's only one example to show you how you could think about shape design and such, but if you're interested in making a really good character design, I'd highly recommend just looking up more about shape language, colors, silhouettes, and such. Third tip is ask a friend or family member or anyone who knows you. It might be really hard to know where to start when designing your Sona, but if you ask someone else how they see you, that might give you some clues about what you should include in your design. For example, you could ask them what animal or place they associate you with and base your design off that. Or if you know anyone who does art or is just willing to draw you, you could always ask them to draw you how they see you. Of course, make sure to be respectful and don't force your friends to draw for you, okay? I've just personally found it very useful to see how others draw me to understand what vibe I give off and how I'm perceived. Fourth tip. This is a tip maybe not everyone will find useful, but if you're finding your persona to be too boring or too serious and don't find yourself being drawn to them, my greatest tip would be to just make them more goofy. More silly, as one would say. This can really make it more fun to draw your Sona. This tip also works for OCs and art in general. If you take art less seriously, at least for me, it tends to be a way better experience and way more fun. That probably has a lot to do with perfectionism, and that when you don't have expectations for your art, it usually turns out better, and if it doesn't, well, you don't care, so win-win. You've all probably heard this example by now, but you know when you're doodling in school and whatever you draw turns out amazing, but when you come home and try to draw something good, it doesn't really turn out as good as you wanted. Well, that has a lot to do with expectations and putting pressure on yourself to perform well. And this applies to your persona as well. If you try to draw serious drawings all the time, your Sona might seem more like a character and less like you just expressing yourself. But of course, there will probably be some people who have the opposite problem. Maybe you like expressing yourself seriously and want your characters to be very detailed, and you want to make full illustrations for them every time, and that's just fine. Just keep in mind that it can be good to not care about your drawing sometimes, and I promise art will become a lot more fun. And well, you look at that, it's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate everyone who stayed until the end. I hope this video was at least a bit useful. Remember, your persona is yours. So have fun with it. Let it reflect who you are or who you want to be. And I wish you all luck in your persona making journeys. Peace.